75% of the commercial network television time is paid for by the 100 largest corporations in North America. Some corporations have television budgets that range into the billions per year. Television producers compromise and end up mitigating their desires for those of the advertisers. Thus, television is effectively a private medium for their use only. The longer a person watches television, the more easily the brain slips into alpha level, a slow, steady brainwave pattern in which the mind is in its most receptive mode. Images and suggestions are implanted directly into the mind without viewer participation. An effective hypnosis is induced, and the viewer surrenders to the unending television image stream. Images of television violence stimulate the fight-or-flight instinct. But since it would be absurd to react to television violence, the viewer suppresses the emotion. Viewers are drawn back and forth on cycles of impulse and suppression. When the set goes off, this stored-up energy bursts forth in frantic behavior commonly associated with childhood hyperactivity. Television imagery is jammed together in a steady stream of information, fracturing your attention while condensing and accelerating time. These events would not happen in ordinary life. They are technical alterations only possible within the moving image media. Living in the rapid world of television imagery, ordinary life is dull by comparison, and often far too slow. People who immersed in the surrogate reality of television life deal on a daily basis with a reality totally unlike any that has preceded it. The image stream is a steady, mixed-up stream of real, unreal, and semi-real events. All of these events end up merging with each other and becoming just another set of stored imagery that have all similar reality values.
Volts of electricity burst into flame.
Eleven major broadcast and print media corporations represent a major portion of the news information systems, providing multiple links to almost every household in North America. For many people, this means that their entire source of news and information comes through the filters of these 11 corporations. Advertising in the media has been commonly regarded as the voting system weighted by income. The main business of media is to sell audiences to advertisers. Large corporate advertisers rarely sponsor programs that contain serious criticisms of corporate activities, such as negative ecological impacts, the workings of the military-industrial complex, or the continuing corporate support of third-world dictatorships. Media organizations rely heavily upon news provided by corporate and government sources, which have organized divisions to provide this material to the media. These bureaucracies subsidize the media, and the media must be careful not to antagonize such an important investor. The development of right-wing corporate flak producers such as Accuracy Media are used to harass the media and to put pressure upon them to follow the corporate agenda. Flak was developed in the 1970s when major corporations and wealthy right-wingers became increasingly dissatisfied with recent political developments and with media coverage. The ideology of the external threat is integral to the Western political culture. It provides the fuel which makes the propaganda model operate so vigorously. External threats have been ingrained into journalistic practices to the point that even in periods of peace, it is expected for journalists to frame issues in terms of our guys versus the bad guys.
300,000 volts of electricity burst into flame.
Perhaps the largest deception played on the television viewing public is the inclusion of video news releases during the network television news. Unbeknownst to most, the video news release, or VNR, have been a major part of television since the 1980s. Having been produced by major corporations to appear to be the average news story that, when incorporated into the daily news, attempts to sway public opinion in promoting a product, service, or event. Some VNR productions have been known to hire actors to portray a news correspondent, a journalist, a seemingly random man in the street, and other characters whose sole responsibility it is to deliver the carefully scripted comments, all of which leads to a recreated actuality of a credible news story. Corporations known for producing VNRs include Philip Morris, Microsoft, the pharmaceutical industry, the Department of Defense, the Census Bureau, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Education, FEMA, and the granddaddy of them all, MediaLink Worldwide. Many news stations have felt financial pressure to become increasingly profitable. This has led to significant cost cutting in the newsrooms themselves, which often includes technicians and producers. Thus, demand has grown for cheap news supplied by the outside sources. And thus the public are left with stories of little significance, while more important issues get swept under the carpets of corporate America. The fight against VNRs has been growing, with the Federal Communications Commission setting fines against media outlets who fail to inform their viewers that a particular story has been produced by some agency outside of the news department. Even though the fight continues, the practice of including VNRs into the daily news is as prevalent today as it was 20 years ago. When a VNR is broadcast over the airwaves and is not disclosed to the public, media outlets everywhere run the risk of ruining their credibility.
Volts of electricity burst into flame.
Brand integration is also known as product placement. These are types of subliminal advertising used by producers of mass media in exchange for financial compensation from a variety of corporations. It commonly appears in plays, films, television series, music videos, video games, and even books. Although product placement became more common during the 1980s, its origins can be traced back to 1946 with Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life and its overt product placement of National Geographic. In early media, programs were often written by corporations. Soap operas were called such because they were initially underwritten by consumer companies such as Procter & Gamble. This trend still exists today, with programs being sponsored by major vendors such as Hallmark and Netflix. Needless to say that product placements are all around you. One has to only turn on the television to experience them. Jack Bauer and Associates on 24 will always be driving the model of car that is their main sponsor for that season, while the villains often drive the other brands. James Bond uses a variety of Sony products, including a cell phone, digital camera, Blu-ray recorder, and a laptop. Bond's last two films were not just sponsored, but also produced and distributed by Sony. Tony Stark eats Burger King, E.T. eats Reese's Pieces, Ryan and Kelly talk about Netflix while Dwight and Michael argue over IHOP and Denny's, Austin Powers uses AOL, and Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum saved planet Earth using a Macintosh computer. According to PQ Media, a consulting firm that tracks the product placement market, 2006 product placements earned $7 billion in value, and estimated to rise to $10 billion by the year of 2010. Product placements often go by completely unnoticed by most audiences. This is because products are assimilated to a near-flawless degree of believability. In fact, the majority of placements go undisclosed to anyone because producers and directors claim the placements to be a natural part of their creation. It is because of this that breaking the illusions of product placement is one of the most important and ironically easiest things that we can do. Product placement recognition destroys the illusion of fabricated reality that we find in television and movies. While watching a show, see how many products you can find in the foreground, background, or mentioned in conversation, and then challenge your friends to do the same. Have some fun with it. By recognizing product placements for what they are, you will begin to break the cycles of subliminal influence that corporate America has been injecting into storytelling for decades, leaving the business of brand integration to be nothing more than a bad joke.
Machismo. Real cheese for real men. Now in a handy aluminum dispenser.
300,000 volts of electricity burst into flame.